Hello, my name is Megan, and this is a Naughty Mess Knitting Podcast. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 14. We are doing a normal episode today. We're going to talk through some finished objects, some mini WIPs, and a couple new cast-ons because, you know, clear the needles and add something else. I don't have any acquisitions. I was trying to think about it and no yarn or fiber came to my house this week, and it should not be a new thing, but it feels like a new sensation. But I did buy a new book. We're going to talk about that for sure because I cannot put it down. Yeah, and then a couple of yarny things going on in the world to talk about. So let's start with what I am wearing, which might look familiar to some of you who have been watching. My ashling is done. So fun story here is, because I even said this last week, Maddy has been so chill about the deadline and all this. There were a couple of people who asked for an extension, and she just said she wasn't in a rush and she had other things going on. So this sweater is in testing. The Cumulonimbus, I think is what the other one is called, also in testing. And her Kettle chip socks, which I am also testing. I am not testing the Cumulonimbus, but Sylvan did test it, and I think she's done as well at this point. And I haven't seen it finished, but I saw it mostly finished and very also floofy and nice looking. Okay, so let's talk details on this, then I'll stand up and we can look at it all together. I will put a picture after because I want to talk about something, and then I'll put a picture of it on my wall. I have not taken pictures outside. We're at the season of, I don't know if I can do that anymore. Also, sorry for that noise. That was like the new baby noise. So I feel like we've all been doing it in the house. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if I can't take pictures outside. Also, I'm not in a rush to get pictures for this because we do have an extension. Yes, my makeup is done, but also I could do them next week or just kind of any day that we have a little bit of sunshine. I don't do my makeup regularly anyway. Just like the light in my office is so overhead, and I have like always dark circles under my eyes, so I feel like I need to do a little bit in here to not look like a dead person on camera. Plus I love a lip all the time. But yeah, I don't dress up for work. I do if I'm like wearing a sweater and in a meeting, I will. Okay, distraction. Let's go back to this. So this is still in testing, the Ashling sweater by Maddy Mo, who is Momer01 on Instagram. You guys, I also feel so bad because like I've definitely been on Maddy's profile a ton of times, and I didn't even realize that she is the co-dyer at a really small hand dye place, a small independent hand dyer also, and their name is called, I don't want to get it wrong, Loop and Whirl Fiber, like WHORL fiber, co. And they have some really cute colorways, and I think they just did like a scary movie collection. Yeah, so she is, co-dyer at Loop and Whirl. Somehow I missed that, but I was on her profile this past week and I was like, oh, I can talk about that. They do have some really good colors. Anyway, their their Halloween scary movie sets were just like, I think one color each. I think they might still be for sale because they did like maybe a mystery thing where they just released them for the, I think they did a mystery box, and then you can now just buy the colors. Anyway, they are really cute. They're very moody. I don't like scary things, but they pick some classics and they like base the colors off of the movie poster, which is not too scary for me. But yeah, so check them out. Okay, so back to this. This is like the most distracted FO what I'm wearing ever, but got things to say. So test was originally due the 12th, which is today is the 10th. So it would have been due on Sunday. Now all the way to December, the first week in December, I think. This is knit bottom up, and it is a split hem with a high-low hem, drop, I keep calling drop shoulder. I don't know. You guys, what is this? It's like a set in shoulder is because it is supposed to be a little bit oversized, but then you do decreases, like you do armhole shaping, which made me think it's not really drop shoulder, because a lot of times drop shoulders are just like, the other thing I'll show you today, you just knit straight up and then there's no real armhole shaping and you just pick up, and it does sit, you know, lower here. This one sits like in the middle, you know, it's not right on my shoulder, but it's here. Anyway, and I did do essentially like a cap sleeve and then the sleeve. So also, I don't know, it's like an in the middle kind of sleeve. And it's made with one strand of sari. It is, I made the size 5. So this is 48 inches, and I did not pin to block this just because I didn't want it to really stretch very much. And it was just about 48 inches when I laid it just like on my little meshy mat thing, in my bathroom with the fan on and the dehumidifier going, because it is wet and rainy and cold here, just to get it to dry. It actually didn't take that long. I mean, kind of when you squeeze, like when you roll this up and squeeze it out in the towel, like it gets a lot of the moisture out, but just the hair, you know, I didn't want it to like keep any of the moisture, so I gave it a good drying. I use the recommended needle size, which is 3.5 millimeters for the body and 3.25 millimeters for the ribbing. I think I could have gone down to 3 for the neckline. We'll discuss the neckline in a second. I used Back Loop Yarn Co.'s Surrey lace in a custom color, right? That's periwinkle-ish. And it is 74% baby Surrey alpaca, 26% silk, 328 yards for 50 grams. And let's just check it out. Okay, before I do stand up though, I want to show you the neckline. It sits okay, but it's doing that weird thing where it is like, you can tell here, especially, it's like raised. I think this can easily be solved. I've actually never had to do it before, but I think you just run a piece of elastic that's a little bit smaller, you know, than how this is standing up. And I think you just like tie it and scoot it inside. I have not like hard elastic, guys, like elastic thread. I have some elastic thread, and I think I will do that, and it will just cinch this like in a little so it lays flat right there, and then it would be perfect. But I think if I had gone down a needle size after picking up, like honestly, here's what I would suggest if I did this to myself. This is a record for me for later. If I ever knit this again, I think I would like to pick up with one needle size bigger to make sure that I have more stretch here, and then knit with a 3 millimeter to make this cinch in a little bit more, and don't F around with anything else, just bind off and then sew down, which is what I ended up doing. And the fit is fine. Like it gets over my head okay. It didn't like pull it in any extra. It's just this like weird bloop, which I think one size smaller would have helped with. But again, I think I'll just finish with the elastic. I also wanted to wear it a little bit and see if it would just relax on its own. I don't know that it will. We'll see. Okay, let's stand up and give you, oh, I almost knocked my coffee over. Okay, a little more of a view. So, it's so cute. Woohoo. Okay, so you can see here, gosh, the color is like even changing on camera because it actually does have a lot of like pinky tones in it too. And you can see it. It's not crazy noticeable, but I did not like do any skein management, so I definitely have a slightly lighter skein right here in the middle. It was my second skein because this is bottom up, and you know what? I'm not really mad about it. It's It's not super noticeable. It's actually over a good place. It's not like right on my boob or something. So like that's fine. It is what it is. And I could not tell while knitting it, and I was not going to be like helical knitting this because it already felt like it was taking a long time. Anyway, here is my nice relaxed ribbing. It relaxed really nice after washing, and I didn't stretch anything. It just kind of did that on its own. And when I take pictures outside, you'll see it better, but it does have, it has the high-low. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a place you can really see the side. Look at that. I'm on my tippy toes, but it does have that split hem does do also because of the shape of my body. Pulls that back a little bit, which is so nice. So there is a detail. This whole section here is 1x1 ribbing, which you can kind of tell. It does give you a sort of different looking texture. And the underarm of my sleeve is also a continuation of that 1x1 ribbing. So that goes down like the inside of my arm. The cuff length is good. I didn't have a lot of growth with this when I wash in my arms. I know some people find that like the sleeves of a Surrey sweater will grow. I pretty much knit to this length, maybe like a 1/2 inch less, hoping they would grow just a tiny, and they did. But again, no pinning, I mean, you're blocking it, you're still washing it and blocking it, but it's not any kind of aggressive movements. So, sorry, that's the sound on my iPad. My husband is upstairs with a cold, and he's texting me. Laying in bed, obviously. So, yeah, that's my Ashling, and I really love it. Gosh, wearing one. Oh, and also, this is one strand of Surrey. Yeah, I'm sure in the sunlight it's going to be pretty see-through, but I'm wearing a tank top and I don't feel like you can really, really see my skin or anything on camera. So, I guess that's good. But yeah, I'm like, it's soft. It's like a dreamy cloud, which is exactly what the description says. Like a dream, and it really is. It also weighs nothing. I think I ended up using, I have not weighed it yet, so I'll weigh it after this to do my final measurements and stuff for the form I have to fill out. But I believe I used 3.5-ish skeins, maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah, just about. So it honestly doesn't weigh 200 grams. It's 100 something. And I match my Hydro Flask. It has coffee in it. I made myself a French press because Mike did not need coffee today, and I needed a treat because it's Friday. Okay. Anything else I have to say about this? I don't think so. It was really nice. It's a really nice knit. I do think, honestly, Maddy's doesn't look like she had any issues with the neckline. A couple of other people also said they were a little bit tight. You gotta know that about yourself, maybe a little bit. And also like that silk line, when you pick up, it's just not that forgiving. So if you wanted to add a few stitches to this, and then also I know at least 1 or 2 people made their neckline just shorter like this so that they wouldn't have any kind of, I actually think it sits really nice. Where it's sitting is great. Like right here along my neck is fine, which is also why I think the elastic would be a good problem solver. Okay. Will I make it again? Unsure how many Surrey things I would like in my closet, and I have at least two or three planned. 3 or 4. Let's not lie. I at least have the yarn for 3 more, but they're all Surrey held with something or Surrey held double. And so I don't know, maybe because this is so light, like it's warm though, so I don't know like how many seasons I can wear it in. I think we'll see. If this feels springy to me, this color. So let's see if I can like wear it in the spring and like out and about, and if I'm dying of heat or if it's not enough, you know. It's an experiment. It's an experiment. Okay. Let's do the second thing I finished on time before the 7th. Actually, I finished these on the 6th. I still have them, even though I told my mom she could take them and wear them before the episode. She decided just to keep them nice and fresh for the camera, and then she would take them from me. So here are my classic Miel socks. This is the classic version of the Miel. You get, when you buy the pattern, it comes with 2 versions, a shorties and the classic, and they just have a different sort of setup at the beginning, because they're both cuffed down, and a little bit of a different heel. So here they are. Da, da, da. The color looks actually pretty consistent here on camera. Live, this one in the back, like on the top, looks like it has a lot more brown. Like you can see here, this is a lot more like speckles. I pull inside and outside, so I do this lazy thing. Also because I don't want to just have lots of really small partial skeins. Doesn't matter, still just a partial skein. But when I do 2 at a time, which this was done 2 at a time, the Charlotte method, which is on 2 separate needles, I pull from the inside and the outside, which maybe is crazy, but I don't mind it. I don't feel like I've figured out how to flip my yarn and manage it so that it's not get all tangled together. Except for sometimes when I shove it into the bag with 0 cares after I'm done knitting for the day. Anyway, yeah, so here they are. And because I do that though, this is finished the thought. It's Friday. Because I do that, you can totally tell like the differences in like the start of the skein and the end of the skein, right? So this was clearly like more on the outside when in the pan, because it has way more of the speckles than this one does. But it still has like the brown bits and stuff in it. It's just not quite as present. Not noticeable enough that it would matter. Just something to note. These socks, as a reminder, are my October colorway from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad 2023. I have November, which we looked at last week. 1 more coming, and then I'm done. And I am not going to renew my sock squad. Not because I didn't enjoy it. I very much did enjoy it. But I have a lot of sock yarn, and I'd like to make socks with those. And because I did this, I did knit more socks than just my 12 this year. We're at 10. But I did knit more other socks, like middle of the summer and a couple in the early parts of the year. But I have a lot of sock sets and a lot of sock yarn that would be great as socks. So I'd like to pick and choose from my own stash next year. I kind of still want some sort of fibery something for my birthday this year, but I don't know what I want. I think maybe next year I will do some sort of very fun, maybe rather more expensive advent, if I can plan ahead. But because my birthday is in December, we'll call it a birthday present as well. But for this year, I still should get something, I think. I might do a fiber club, but I also don't know if I just want like a whole bunch of single braids. I'm still figuring out what I like, so I also don't want to commit to a big buy of something either, so unknown. I also did just buy myself a spinning wheel. Do I need a birthday present? That could have been my birthday present to me. Anyway, Mike feels better when he has something tasked to buy me though, so I'll think of something. These are, let's go through this really fast. The Miel socks by Melissa West, who is Fox Fig on Instagram. Again, this is the classic Miel. I did size large, which is 72 stitches, 2.25 millimeter needles, which is the recommended. Okay, Farmer's Daughter Fibers Pintler sock in the long-nosed bat, which was October's color, 75% wool, 25% nylon, 463 yards for 100 grams. I just love though, I mean, I know I've said this before, but like, I think that the sock knitting preference is a real thing. I like to knit on magic loop. Like, that's really the only way I like to do socks. I did try the 2 at a time this year. I don't like it. The only real reason actually is because I feel like they get heavy on your needles, and just like, I didn't find that enjoyable. Also, like, I like the Charlotte method. I like to do 2 at a time, separate needles, because I still feel like I'm accomplishing them both. I don't have to, like, you don't get done the whole sock and then I get second sock syndrome. I don't personally get it. I understand why people have it. Normally I would just, before I started the Charlotte method, I really just like would cast one on right away. But I think I like this better because I feel like I'm progressing well through both of them. You do heels one then the other. You know, you don't just get to the end and then you're like, I'm done, and then have to repeat the whole thing. It does make gussets really hard though, because like for these ones, I did one whole gusset and then I did the other whole gusset, and I was like, I don't even want to look at these socks anymore. But then I just gave myself like a day. So I think last episode I had just one gusset done, and I had just done that the night before, and then I did the next gusset the next day, and then on Friday. And then I really just powered through these this weekend. Actually doing the foot, it didn't feel so bad. Once you're in pattern and you know what it is, it's pretty easy. But this has some cute details in it. Like, this pattern has this nice little, it's a left and a right twist kind of faux cable-y thing here that gives it a little bit of structure. I did talk about this gusset is purled, so it has like a little extra texture. There's a lot of texture going on in these socks. The heel is not a traditional slip stitch. It's like a every third stitch slip stitch heel. The heel cup is nice and deep too. I don't know what else to say about these. Oh, even the toe is different. You know, you don't just like, here, I'll pull these off. You don't just get to the toe and then just do plain. You kind of stop pattern, but continue slip stitches above into your decrease. Which I slipped these on my mom, and that's really cute because it gives, like, I don't know, it just gives every part of your foot is interesting in the sock. And they fit her. And so great success. And it's actually the same size I usually make for me. My mom's foot and my foot are very similar. Hers is a little bit wider than mine and a little bit longer. She had babies, so likely before she got pregnant the first time, her feet were just like mine. They even, like, they're the same shape. And actually I was talking about this with my friend Katie this week, that we have really different shaped feet, her and I, but we wear the same size shoe. So I like often will need a wide, and she's got like a narrower, well, I think her foot is narrower than mine. But anyway, we were just looking at our toes, and I have the very my toes are like this. I have a longer big toe and all of my toes fall in line. Hers are kind of the more rounded. So I was just saying, for sometimes when I knit socks, I feel like these rounded toes or these square toes like pull funny on my foot because that's not the shape of my toes. Or I have like a little lump thing on the inside next to my big toe. There's just like extra fabric. But there is a way, it's like an asymmetrical decrease for your toe. I'm going to look it up and see if I can just swap that toe for maybe my next pair of socks. I haven't picked for my November colorway, but maybe I'll do it for the November socks and see if the fit is better. It's not like it really affects the fit of my socks, but a little bit. And it also, like, then you'd really have a right and a left sock, so then you'd also have to keep track of that. But I think you'd notice it. You'd be able to see it when you look at them. I don't know. I'm interested in the idea. I didn't even know that existed. And Katie said, yeah, you can do like a perfectly matching for my toe line. So we'll see. But I did not wind or pick my color for November yet. But I will do that this weekend likely. Okay, I have one more finished object. I mean, I will also say Katie checked in with me this weekend and she called this my whip down weekend. And she was right, because I was on a mission to get some of these whips off my needles, the things with deadlines. So this had a deadline that got moved. But after I was done, you guys, I was fully done, washed it. And then she was like, oh yeah, let's give us a 3-week extension. And I was like, okay. But I wanted it to be off my needles anyway. It's the lingering that was bothering me, not so much that I was getting close to the deadline. But the socks I got posted in time, so no worries, everybody. I did 10 whole months on time. I'm very excited about that. And I need to get this out in the mail tomorrow, but I already sent pictures to Erin, and here is my completed and very gorgeous Phaedra. This is a sample knit. How pretty is it? You guys, this color is everything. It's so gorgeous. Like, this is a good color for me. Actually, being a winter, this is like a kind of, it's like a blue-gray neutral. This is actually a good color for me. This is like inside of my color palette. It's a cool neutral, so it's like something I could wear. And it is what I ordered already. So she's already getting my sample payment ready because I showed her the picture, and also she knew I was going to finish it. But I'm going to get this out in the mail to her tomorrow. I did not wet block this. So I was texting her this week and was letting her know where I was on it and that I would get it done in time. And I asked her how she wanted me to block it, and she actually said she got some very special holiday wool wash that she wanted to use, and so don't block it. And I said, okay. I did steam block just a tiny bit so that everything laid flat for us to talk about today. And it's so pretty. Okay, I'm going to give you details first on this so I don't forget, because I feel like I'm all over the place already today. But this is the Phaedra by Audrey Borrego, who is Yarn Flakes on Instagram and YouTube. I needed to get this to Erin by next Thursday or something, out in the mail next Thursday, the 17th. What's today? Today is the 10th, so next Friday. It was the agreement, and I'll get it out tomorrow, and it'll be in her hands before Friday, hopefully. It is a bottom-up cable and bobble front sweater, as you just saw. It has a split hem, drop shoulders, all over dot motif. We'll talk through all those things real fast. I did do the size 2 for the sample. It is there's a lot of positive ease. 7.75 inches is recommended, and it is a 43.25 inch bust. So in theory, this is perfect for somebody who's like a 36 inch bust. It is I used 3.75 millimeter needles for the body, 3.5 millimeter needles for the ribbing. And obviously, since this is a yarn sample for Erin at Backloop Yarn Co., this is Backloop Yarn Co. yarn in basic sock and Surrey lace. So the Surrey lace is the same composition as this, which is the 74% baby Surrey alpaca, 26% silk, 328 yards for 50 grams, and the sock that this is held with is basic sock, and it is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards for 100 grams, and it's divine. It's so nice. Let's see. I don't know if I really need to give it more room. You guys saw it. The fit is so cute though. Oh, I'll put a picture here of it on my wall, just hanging up, so that you can see what it looks like. There's some odd sunshine going on in it, but whatever. You can kind of see how the colors like looks a little different in the sun and then versus inside. But what you can see in the picture too is a little bit better, like the back hem when it's on a hanger. I mean, that a hanger is not a body, but it should have a little bit of this high-low hem. But this is really a more traditional split hem, so you don't overlap anything, but this is just a tiny bit longer. Also, because it's not blocked, the back will give a little bit more stretch than the front because of the cable panel. You also don't, I mean, I think that actually this cable panel is really smart in the way that it's knit. Like it's got lots of space in it, so you probably, like Erin will probably not have to heavily block this or whatever. I do think that some of these knit through the back loop lines here will open a little bit with blocking so that you can kind of see, especially this it's called the leaf motif. So this leaf pop out a little bit more. But you can see the baubles. They're present, they're beautiful, and they're not too crazy. They are done a lot more like a crochet bauble. And the neckline is really cute. I actually really like how this picked up. When I was picking it up, I did the neckline last night, and I thought this was gonna look huge. I was picking up a lot of stitches for this size, but also a lot of stitches along the back and not that many along the front. So I was like a little bit worried that just because it felt like there was a big dip here. I mean, it was like pretty proportional, right? Like it doesn't look like it's crazy stretched anywhere. But I was like worried it would be holy or like weird looking, but I think it like turned out really nice. I mean, whatever math she used was great. It looks great. So I did, the last time we saw this, it wasn't even connected. And I wasn't done the back. I think I had just finished the front panel. The back went super fast, and then I just needed to get it done, and I didn't want it to linger through next week. And because I film on Fridays, I like finally sat down, looked at dates, and I was like, oh, I really got to get this done this week if I want to get it out to her a little bit early. Or I would have just taken some pictures and we wouldn't have had it to touch and feel to talk about. But it's so nice. Oh, I also want to talk about these cuffs because the sleeve is worked with no decreases. So again, this is a much more traditional drop shoulder. There's no shaping. You just pick up as many stitches. And I think this is Erin's size. I'm assuming that it's like she's going to wear this sample. I'm assuming her shoulder's like here-ish, and this will be like a pretty good amount that is sitting on her shoulder, you know, to here-ish, and then it'll just be a straight sleeve from there. And then you do decreases and like a whole round of knit one, knit two together kind of decrease. And then you just do the longest 2x2 rib known to man. It's like 6 inches. It actually like, it ended up not being as painful as I thought it would be just because it was so few stitches. And this, I did both of these sleeves in the last like 2 days, 3 days. No, I did them Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, one each night. And it was really not so bad because it's not that many, like this is like 66 stitches. So it just like went super fast. And then the cuff, yes, I don't feel like you get in as good of a rhythm for a 2x2 knit, but it went fast. It was not bad. And I was also worried because you don't bind off, you just bind off in pattern. And I don't do that for like any of my sweaters. I almost always do a sewn bind off or a tubular bind off. But like this is actually just a bind off in pattern also. And I was worried about it because of this, you know, I was worried it would be tight, but it actually like, this is totally fine and it's not too baggy. And this, you can see it flares just a tiny bit, but it's little. So, and I don't have a very big hand. So I like put my hand into this just to see how it fit, and it sits really nice at the wrist. So I think it'll be okay. Yeah, overall, I'm super pleased with how it came out. I hope Erin loves it. She saw pictures today and she thought it was great. So it's what she ordered. Gosh, that's so good. Without seeing any purple, it's really nice. Yeah, so I'm so excited. 2 sweater whips done this week. Yay! And that's the end of the finished objects for the week. Which is going to be a lot of this episode because I don't have that much to talk about in whips. Let's talk about the next deadline project, which is not super far away. I've got 10 days to finish this and I should be fine. Shawls keep growing though. I kind of want to switch the needles because this is like only a medium length needle. I mean the cable, and it's growing. I think maybe I'll do a couple more repeats and then I'll switch it out. Here is my Daft Days shawl. This is a test knit for Rebecca Clow, who is the Crayabea on Instagram and YouTube. If you didn't see last week, her Stick Season sweater finally came out. So if you were looking at that on her Instagram, go grab it. It's such a cute pattern. I actually really like it as a men's sweater. I don't know that I would make it for me personally, just because of seeing all of them, like, I have a hair on my eyelash. All of the testers things. There were a lot of women, there were a lot of men. I actually like it more on the men, partly because of where the textured area hits. So it hits kind of like mid boob on a lot of people. I have a really low sitting chest, so it might sit like here on me, but I also kind of still think that's awkward to like sit right above my boob line and not have any pattern on them. I don't know. I'm buying this pattern because Mike it's gonna be his sweater. That's what I've got yarn for it. That's my intention, is to start making him a sweater over the holidays. And I really think it'll look great on him. What I want to do is what Rebecca's doing now, is she's going to make a plain version of that sweater, but use the really fun and beautiful detailing. There's this like ribbed detailing that goes down the back of the shoulder and then under the armpit, and maybe is joined in the front too. Anyway, it's really pretty, and just skip the sticks, the texture on the top. Also because, like, I don't need a matching sweater with Mike. I like matching. But that's kind of matching. So that might be what I do. We'll see. It's not on anyone's plan because there's like 80,000 other sweaters before that. But this Daft Days, we're not talking about this, guys. We're talking about this test. This Daft Days shawl is the next pattern that will come out, and it'll come out with this and a cardigan. The cardigan went into testing a few weeks before the shawl because cardigans take longer, although shawls have so many stitches at the end. But we got options, and same with the cardigan. So when Rebecca made her first sample for the cardigan, she used a advent calendar for the stripes, and I think she said she ended up using like 14 colors or something like that, not all 24. And depending on people's body type and size and other things, like you may not be able to use that few, but you also may not be able to use that many if you're doing like the 4-row repeat and you have a short body or a little, I don't know. I'm not really sure how many stripes are in the body of the cardigan. But this, she planned, because you can just knit shells as big as you want, the 4-row repeat with 24 different colored stripes. Her original sample for this, which I'll pop up if I didn't already, is 3 colors and a main color. But there are at least a couple of people in the test doing all different mini colors. There are several people doing different kinds of shades. There are several people doing different kinds of fades. There are also a couple of people doing like just 2 colors. Trying to think if there's anything else. Just different different amounts of minis. Yeah. So, but the options are limitless. As with anything that you knit, you can really do whatever you want with the colors and the fun stuff. But I am using a 50-gram skein set that I have. It's got 7 colors. They're all 50 grams. I'm not obviously using all of that yarn, though I will use almost all of the last couple of colors, I think. I'm tracking every repeat, so I have a good idea of how many I can do of the last color or 2 before I go into the ribbing, because I do want a nice ribbing because it has like such a nice edge the way that Rebecca's looks. And so this is due November 20th. It's a triangular shawl, so it's symmetrical, and has slip stitches, so you can see the pattern. Also, look how beautiful the orange color is. I don't have a progress marker, you guys. I'm going to really try to do progress markers this week. After I film, I'm going to just put them on the things I'm working on and we can go from there. But I remember last time I filmed, I was like somewhere in the middle of this color, this third color here. I didn't have any orange yet. And so now I am completed on this orange here, which is like kind of a, let's see if I can pull the color out. It's like an orange and tan, a little bit of brown. Here we go. And then the next orange has, I just started doing the fade. I think I'm done the fade portion. So I have done, and I'm doing 3 rows of fade. So 2 of the next color, 2 of the color that you were just on, 2 of the next color, 2 of the color you were just on. So, but 3 full repeats of that. So, it's a more gradual fade. And also because I want to use more of this yarn, even these first colors, I really wanted the fade to like kind of last. So this one though has some purples in it, some teals, and you can tell like there's sections now popping up where it's going to have some of that teal in the orange. So it does look different, though it's going to be like kind of a lot of orange in the middle here. But that's okay. It's pretty. I like it a lot more than I did with just the first 2 colors. So I'm a big fan of how this fade is working out. I think it looks really pretty, really nice. I think my mom is really gonna like it. Okay. 2 mom knits, that's pretty fun. And let's talk about, okay, so I'm using 4mm needles, but the recommended needle size was 3.25. I was nowhere near gauge with that. And gauge wasn't super important for this, but you know, I want to give her that feedback for me. I am using Treehouse Knits Winter Solstice Fade from 2022, which was, I think, a surprise. I didn't even really see it on her grid, but it's Sequoia Sock in the colors Glisten, Light the Way, Arctic Dust, Fallen Leaves, Last Rays, Juniper, and Winter Solstice. So I have done Glisten, Light the Way, Arctic Dust, which was where I ended last week, then Fallen Leaves, and Last Rays, I believe is the color I'm on now. If I'm doing the fade in the right order, which I'm pretty sure that's, everybody's pictures are showing it this way, and that's what I'm doing. It is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 200 yards for each 50 grams. So the whole set has a lot of, you know, 350 grams total. So there's a lot of yardage here, but like 1,400 yards, it's enough to make a sweater almost. If you like these colors, I did see somebody post on the Discord this week even, I think, a set that they were getting rid of on the D-Stash Discord. So if you're interested, go look it up. They are really pretty. They fade really nice. Like this would be pretty great as a fade. Okay, what else do we have to talk about? Here's the other shawl, which you guys, I'm going to show it to you and you're going to say, wait, that doesn't look any bigger. In fact, it maybe looks smaller, and I'll tell you why. I do have a progress marker on, and I'm not lying, even though it doesn't look like it grew. So here's the progress marker here, because that's where I had to rip out. I had to rip back and go back to about here. We sent an update to our little chat because again, I'm making this with some friends. So me, Ariel, Emily, and Maya are all making this, and we're just in like a little Instagram chat together. Ariel, Maya, and Emily spun their yarn for this. Emily and Maya spun the whole quantity of yarn for this, and Ariel did her contrast color, and everybody's looks gorgeous, gorgeous. Excuse me. But Emily and I both had to rip back, and it was still like, I wasn't much further than this. I think it was like 1 repeat actually further than this, and I'm almost back there. I did not obviously work on that this much this week. I did the rip back. I started making a little bit of progress, but I was knitting this in the car when I first started because I was so excited and I just like liked it so much, and I wanted a little more time with it. So we were going somewhere and I started knitting it in the car, and let me tell you guys, this was not a knit in the car one. It just isn't. It's not a good knit for that because you have only one row with increases in it, but just like, I don't know, that takes a little more concentration than I have for car knitting, and I missed an increase on the outside edge here and half of an increase, like also one increase, like the outside or inside of a garter row. Anyway, it was a mess. It was not good. And I just like, it would have been fine, honestly. I could have just kept going and like, no, I'm off by 2 stitches. It wasn't that noticeable, but it does have, you have this like beautiful little, just the rhythm of the edge too. It's pretty, and I didn't want it interrupted. Like you can really see on this side, like there, you can see on the inside how nice that looks, like with the increase rows. And it was a nitpicky thing, but also like I was close enough to the, I mean, I had to rip out like 4 or 5 repeats. So like 20 rows, but that's not that many stitches. So like, it didn't take me that long to rip it back. I was kind of proud of myself because I picked up the brioche correctly, where I ripped out, and I didn't do a lifeline or anything. I just ripped it out and then picked up, and, that's all good. It's all part of the learning, experience, but also, it happens. And I think you can't be heartbroken either way. If you rip it out, then you've decided to do that. And if you live with it and are a little annoyed, you've also decided to do that. So, anyway, I'm still really loving how it's coming along. I'm going to give this one a lot more time this week because I just like the rhythm. I was missing brioche. Like I really wanted to do a brioche knit, and this is scratching that itch for me. And I want to give it a little more time because like that rhythm is so nice. I just need to do it like while I'm not in the car. That's the answer. Okay, one more project to check in with. And actually, I'm only going to take 2 seconds to talk about this. Oh, sorry. Let me go back really fast. That's the Cinnabar Shawl by Andrea Mowry, who is Drever Knits on Instagram and YouTube. If you don't know that, you should look at all her patterns because there's so many things. She has a lot of brioche patterns, but I have actually, this is my first Andrea Mowry pattern. I bought a bunch during her birthday sale this year. I have yarn for a bunch of them, and I will start a couple of them this winter. But this is the first one just because we're doing a little make along together that I started with. I'm doing 4mm needles, which is the recommended size. I am using Pearl Soho, good wool, and driftwood gray, which is undyed wool, and it is 100% Andean Highland wool. It's 383 yards for 100 grams. And then Spin Cycle dyed in the wool, which is 100% American wool, and this is 200 yards, which they don't give you weight. So it's 200 milled yards. It's about a heavy fingering light sport yarn. Okay. Then I wanted to talk about this one only because I'm making a correction. I don't actually have very much progress on this week. This is my Superlative by Samantha Guerin. It's gorgeous. I cannot wait to wear it. This is actually, we'll talk about priorities maybe after all the WIPs, but this is one I will be tracking on this week because I really want to wear it. I am ready for the super cozy boucle knit. The correction this week, and like literally I added 2 rows. So we don't have to really look at progress. My progress keeper shows me 2 rows of progress. But I keep saying that I'm using Rocky's DK on this. I did not use Rocky's DK. It's Cashmere. It's Explorer Knits and Fibers Cashmere DK. And Sylvan was watching, and Sylvan's like, I think I gave you Cashmere DK. And I said, I don't even know. I didn't look at the label. I mean, how terrible is that? Then I looked at the label and I was like, yes, you're right. So it's made with Boucle yarn. Which is 100% superwash merino and is 200 and let's look, 240 yards for 100 grams. And then the Cashmere DK, which is 80% superwash merino, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere, 231 yards for 100 grams. And it feels divine. I mean, I probably should have been able to tell that by just like touching it. I actually don't think I've ever knit anything in her Cashmere DK. Like, really, this is my first Explore Knits and Fibers project. Let's say that. So, but I've knit with other Cashmere DKs. You'd think I would have noticed, but you know, I was kind of whipping through that real fast. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Okay, so I have 2 new cast-ons, things we talked about last week. And you're saying, wait, we talked about 3 last week. You're correct. I only cast on 2 of them because I did not think I would have to finish my Phaedra this week, and I did. And that is fine, totally okay. I'm glad I finished it. I'm glad it's off my needles. That's like, it's nice to get things done a little ahead of schedule. And I am, I don't know. Really, these are not due for a long time, but it's the colorway that pulled me in, and I really wanted to start making them, so I just said, whatever, I'm gonna do it. And I am going to cast on my November Farmer's Daughter Fibers sock this weekend also, so I have that on the needles because you know I'm gonna wait until the very last days of the month to do a hard push, but you know, that's okay. This is my Kettle Chip socks. So I think I like called it 3 different names last week. This is the Kettle Chip socks, also by Maddy. It is in testing. I think that we have until the end of the year, and that's like kind of a soft deadline, but I forgot to tell you guys, this is going to be a free pattern. So there's not a hard deadline because it's going to be a free pattern anyway. Like I said, there's not a lot I think that we'll probably have to change with the pattern. It's relatively simple and is really just like a vanilla sock, but she's giving you good tips for yarn management for self-striping sock yarn specifically. So it is both there is a cuff down and a toe up version, also like both in the same pattern and for free. That's so awesome. It's going to have an afterthought heel. This will be my first afterthought heel. I'm excited for it. I like the way that hers looks. It looks like a little bit more structure than some normal afterthought heels. Anyway, we'll see. I'm doing size 4. I'm gonna measure this or try it on my foot after a couple more inches and just see if it's like too big. So she wrote this with positive ease, which is odd for a sock in my opinion. I've almost always seen sock patterns other than like DK or worsted socks where you want them to be slouchier to have negative ease, and obviously just pick what sock you want. So she wrote it with positive ease, and she wrote like, I don't even think they're like sized necessarily, but you're doing like, I'm doing the 9-inch sock. The widest part of my foot is 10 inches, like right at the ball. So I picked the 9-inch to give myself some negative ease. The way that she wrote it though is like, it would be, you know, for an 8 or 8.5-inch foot would use the 9-inch. Again, you can make whatever decisions you want. I am using recommended needle size of 2.25 millimeters, and I decided to start with, and so we'll see what I do for the heel and the toe. I'm gonna do the whole sock, and then I'm gonna hold up my other yarn that I brought up last week and see. But I really wanted the black on the top because again, these are like Halloween socks. Yes, it's past Halloween. These will be for next year, but also all the time because they're so happy. The next color is gray, then black, then orange. So all the Halloween colors are in here for sure. And I found some black sock yarn in my stash. This is Cascade Yarns Heritage Sock, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 437 yards for 100 grams. And then we talked about this yarn last week, but the self-striping yarn is white Birch Fiber Arts, just sock is the base. In Once Bitten, in the composition of that is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards for 100 grams, but it comes in 2 50-gram balls. They come like, you know, I pulled it apart last week so you could see this. They are like just twisted together in the skein. I wound them both, and they did start and end with the same, well, I think like just off the ending of the color, but I actually pulled, after I did this, I pulled the outside yarns were both green. So I pulled them together just to see if they were like about the same length. They're dead on, exactly the same length. So I can just start the two. What I decided though is, because I just cast these on last night, I decided that I was going to cast on, get done the cuff and a couple colors just to see the fit. Then I am going to cast on the second one and start, because all I'm doing is knitting a tube for a long time. I do want to make sure the tubes are the same size. So with me and the tension possibility of stress tensioning, I figured I would, yeah, do them at the same time. But how fun is this so far? It's amazing. I'm a big fan. I mean, I don't know, you're just stockinette tube, so we'll see how I feel after doing 2 of them. But I do think this color change is like a little bit addicting. Like, it's like, last night I was like, just one more stripe, okay, just like a couple more rows, I just want to see what it looks like. So that's really fun. And this is my cute little cake. Like, how also fun is that? I love it. Okay, oh, but I did bring this up. I brought it down with me too. So what I might do is this is the Basalt Yarnaceous. So I might see, like, once I'm towards the toe, do I want to do so the way that Maddy's pattern, and I'm sure I already put the picture up, but Maddy had like a dark bluey color that matched her self striping as her like long cuff, which I also did not do as long of a cuff as she did. She was like 3.5 inches. And like, girlfriend, that ain't gonna happen. I did 2 inches of black cuff last night. Also, this is also 2x2 rib, which, I mean, just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like unintentionally I get myself in the land of like the same thing over and over. So much 2x2 rib happening. But like, I love the stretch of it. It looks gorgeous. Also fun that this cast on for it, she used like a tubular cast on. I hadn't even thought of doing that for this, but then the first row changes it to a 2x2 instead of a 1x1 rib. But anyway, so once I finish most, like, as long as I want the tube, then I'll hold this up and see if I want to do this or if I just want to finish it with this. And even after that, then we can decide if I want the heel to be this or if I just want to have the black in there. And the gray is fun still. Like, I think I need to see all the colors and then make a decision. Okay. So let's talk about my second new cast on of the week, which I did say I was going to do, and I did do. By the way, I'm not going to really talk about it this week, but I did do my swatch for the duotone. And I am good. I'm on gauge. I am going to cast that on this week. I finally read through the construction of the pattern. It's wild. Partly because I sort of love this. It's a bottom-up sweater, but because bottom-up sweaters often present like sizing issues or like it's hard to gauge your length, Rachel solved this by just doing a provisional cast on, knitting really as much of the body as you want. You can just then pick up and knit the other way if you only want to do a little bit of the body before, or you can do a lot of the body, leaving just what you think you're going to need for ribbing, and that's like totally up to you. And then you, like, as much as the body as you want to do in the round, then you split, you do your front, your back, do sleeves, and then you can do your body, the rest of your body, which is like kind of the best of both worlds, I think, actually. I do actually really like bottom-up construction for like how some of the fits can happen that are different than doing just a raglan. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I am going to pick that up. I'm going to cast it on this weekend. It is not due until January, like the first week of January. So I have plenty of time to get to it. But I got so excited with my colors. And that's why I don't want to show you. I just want to have more of the body on because I think you'll really see the impact of the faux, the I-cord, the middle I-cord, to see how it will look next week. So I cast on my Calm Down cardigan. So reminder, we talked about this a little bit. Calm Down cardigan is by Lily Kate France, who is Lily Kate Makes on Instagram. And I'm not sure what her username is on YouTube, but she does do a lot of tutorial YouTubes for her pattern support. And I think, you know, just like generally you can look up some of them. So this starts just like the Skyline pullover, but smaller. Let me pull some more from the cones. So this is a top down saddle shoulder-ish construction cardigan with a v-neck and an applied double knit button band. Yeah. So, and I'm making a size 4, which is 51.5 inches. The recommended ease on this though is like 10 to 12 positive inches. That would, put me at 47, or I'm 47 inch bust, 57 plus, which would have been size 5. I don't want it to be that big. That's going to bug me. I don't want to be swimming in it. I like the look of it to be fit a little bit more fitted. So I picked the size 3 is only like 48 inches, and that was a little too snug. Also, like the arm circumference and stuff, I didn't want to have to mess with that too much. And that was a little bit too small, I think. So size 4 it is. And so what you do, just like the Skyline, is you pick up, I'll show this way, or you start knitting just this tiny little ribbed section. This will be one of the shoulders. I can't tell you which one. Actually, this shoulder, I can't tell you. Because on the edging, and you can really see it from the wrong side more, there is also a 1x1 rib section. So what is going to happen is this will sit up here on my shoulder. This 1x1 rib, I think, goes under your underarm, and it maybe also down the side, kind of like how this has down the side. And then, but this 1x1 rib going this direction will also continue down the sleeves like the Skyline. So that's pretty fun. The construction of this is interesting. So you do this, you do one side, you do the other little shoulder section, and this is all in the Ravelry page because she tells you how the construction works. You pick up across the back, and then you do your other panel. And this is also, once that's done, you can just connect all of it and start knitting the whole body back and forth, which is very cool. And also really great for me. I was talking about this with Katie, and I was like, oh, this is critical for me to know. I'm not going to jump ahead any steps because she does that also for like yarn management. So you don't have too many extra ends, and you don't have to join extra balls and have things waiting. You really like end it where you need to end it. And the way that you'll pick up, means that you wouldn't have need extra balls connected for any reason, which is perfect because I'm using these cones. So I can't I'm not going to pull, and I am just knitting from these cones, and I am not gonna pull any off and skein it or put it into cakes or anything. Let's talk about the yarn really fast. So did I say, needle size? I'm using 4mm needles for the body, which is recommended. I was really close on gauge. I did not wash my gauge swatch. I just kind of did it, and I was very close. Which, knowing that when I get to bigger things, with my Portuguese pearl pin, because I'll be doing this flat, I tend to pull that a little bit tighter than even my samples, which are so small. And I do use the pin to do samples too, because that's what the thing will be. That I think I was so very slightly over gauge. I was like, whatever, it's fine. It's going to be fine. I also have lots of extra yarn. So if this ends up being 52.5 inches instead of 51, it'll be fine. It is, then I'm also going to, this little section here is 3.75mm needles. And then you need 3.5 for, I think, the cuffs and stuff, or for the button band, just for the button band, maybe. The woolly knit cones that I just pulled up, that's what I'm using. I'm using their merino base, which is 100% merino wool. It's non-superwash, and this is in the color Bias. And it's 514 yards for 100 grams. These are 500 gram cones, but held double, that is 257 yards for 100 grams. So it's a very good DK weight yarn. And that color is so good. It's beautiful. And the stitch definition is so nice with this, held double even. It feels nice. It's not the softest thing I ever knit with, but I have talked to people who have used it and watched some YouTube videos of people who have used it, and everybody says it does soften up nicely and it blooms a little bit, so it'll even like the stitch definition will just not like go away, right, but it'll just like have a little bit of fuzz, which is perfect. And I'm very excited. So that's a knit along I am doing with the Pacific Knit West group, which is my knitting group. It's just a stupid name we have for ourselves. We are doing this in conjunction with some friends in the Bay Area who also have a knitting group. I talked about them a little bit last week, and so excited to have, I love knit alongs, also to have like a really long deadline for this. And we've got people doing it in all sorts of colors, and several other people also using cones, which is fun. And just like being active in the chat, but not like overly active in the chat. We've been talking about other things in the chat too, which has been really nice. And we just have an Instagram chat, which, like I have said before, testing Instagram threads are I think I don't like. Regular Instagram chat threads are great when it's your friends and you don't have to keep track of changes or news, right? It is just fun, silly pictures throughout the day, progress, and everybody is looking really gorgeous. I feel like I'm probably the most behind right now, but I'll catch up. And you may have noticed I also didn't talk about my Leith. No progress again this week on that. But I will, I'm like in opposite ways. Since that's a bottom up cardigan, I'm like gonna get to the body split any second now, as I keep saying, but I just like didn't do any rows this week on it. And then this one is gonna get to the body of just back and forth, and like, but I get to do all the exciting parts first. So I might just like do that, and then I'll be in the long body for that, and then I'll do the Leith fun part after. Okay, so only a couple other things to talk about, and one of them is just some patterns I'm excited about. And I'm only going to talk about one. Not new patterns come out all the time. There are lots of them that I love. This one in particular, though, I feel like I've been on the edge of my seat waiting for, even though, why? I think it's because the composition of it is pretty fun. As far as like getting to use some yarn. I'm actually gonna talk about two new releases. One, yeah, let's go into the first one, which is the one with the fun composition. So I want to buy, and I will buy this weekend, because it's release weekend and it's always nice to boost people on release weekend, but the Doppio is finally out by Sunky Knits. So Sunky Knits has two patterns. They are both relatively plain-ish stockinette knits, sweaters. But, and I have not made the other one, which has been out for a while, the Dear Duomo, which maybe came out last spring. And it, though I've seen like everybody's I've seen made or like posted on Instagram, whatever, is gorgeous. It wears really well. It is a fingering and lace weight held together. So it's like a fuzzy sweater. It's one I don't have the yarn for yet, but I bought some yarn in one of the pre-orders I did this year for this sweater, for the Dear Duomo, because I really love it. And I want to talk through like a couple of the special things about it really fast. Is I think it's a bottom up sweater, but what she does is she does like a faux seam thing on the sides to help give it structure so it wears nicer. It also, I think what I really like about it is like the short row shaping, just the way that it sits on people is really, really nice. And the yarn I got, I'm like really excited to use in this because it'll show off the yarn in a really magical way. Okay, but let's talk about the Doppio. So the Doppio is actually, I think she did this top down compound raglan construction using a curved raglan line. So I think this is also, it sits really nicely. And I think this was partly because maybe she got the comment a lot that people wished that the Dear Duomo was top down. I get it. People are not as receptive, or it's not as mindless maybe to do a bottom up sweater, but I think after I've done like many this year, several this year, of different things. I did a bottom up, the Phaedra this one is, the high time top I did is, the friendship pullover, and the oolong, all bottom up. And like that's many different weights of sweaters I've done now, like a lace weight, a fingering plus a fluff, and 2 worsted things. And I, or a DK and a worsted. Anyway, I kind of like it. It does present a challenge, obviously, with like sizing. And the hard part is like, unless there's a good schematic, sometimes it feels scary and hard to decide where to end, because armpit lines can fall really differently, right? So like with the friendship pullover, which I was wearing last week, that is a raglan style. So even though it's bottom up, it is a raglan, and raglans, like can sometimes have sort of droopy armpits. And so if you stop it too late and it's up here, but the raglan goes high, your armpit will just like maybe look funny. She has great, that was a navy share pattern, and she has really great schematics. So I wasn't worried about it because I knew exactly sort of how it should fit. And that one does fit me really well. But I get it. Maybe it's a little bit scarier. I mean, it's much easier to try on as you go, top down. So for whatever reason, Sungi decided to do a top down for this, which I did see somewhere. It was like a story that it just like made it a lot harder for her. But still super excited. So there is, let's see, neckband stitches are picked up directly from the neckline, or crochet chains made beforehand, which is pretty fun. There again, built-in pearl stitch faux seams on each side of the body, so you can leave them, and I think it's just like 2 pearl stitches or something on either side of a couple knit stitches, which would be cute. Or you can, I think you go in the back, you can essentially like sew or crochet up them, and it does provide structure, and that's an actual thing. So when you wear a knitted garment for a long time, especially this one has a lot of yarn choices, and it becomes a bulky weight. So we'll talk about that in a second. But with a lot of weight too, you can just kind of have like a really droopy sweater over time, and I think she was trying to combat that with the seams, and it does. It's gorgeous. So I'll put up actually what I will do is I'm going to put up a couple of pictures right now of her sample, which maybe I already did. But she did a sample, or somebody made a sample of an early form of her pattern, because I think it was before it was even in testing, or like the very beginning of testing, for Allie out of Explorer Knits and Fibers, out of Spain colorways, which that's when I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna need to make that. It's gorgeous. Not in those colorways, but I really love the colors they picked. But I'll put a couple tester pictures up too, because the combinations people use is really fun. So what is written for here, and this is on the Ravelry page, is a fingering plus lace equals bulky. And it is 15 stitches over 20 and 22 rows over 4 inches. And it is 6mm needles. So 15 stitches is, not a lot. It's like so the Tolsta tee is 17 stitches on like maybe 5mm needles and a DK weight. So this is definitely a closer fabric, but it's like more, a heavier weight. So it's funny because you'll say a fingering plus a lace is a DK, which it really truly is if when you sub it for patterns. Plus another fingering, not a worsted, it gives you a bulky weight. And I think part of that is the fluff does kind of change the composition a little bit. Because a fingering plus a fingering is also a DK. The next step would be worsted to add a lace in, but I believe her that this is not worsted. Getting worsted at 15 stitches gauge on 6mm needles would have to be like, it would be pretty airy. So yeah, bulky. And I think you could just make it out of bulky yarn, right? Like you can absolutely do that. Like, and that would be kind of a fun thing to use some of these guys in, like maybe a striped version of it using these. This is bulky, the petite wool, from We Are Knitters. But what I want to do is because of the composition of using those yarns, you are not using, oh, here's another option. You could also knit with a strand of DK or worsted held with a strand of lace. And that'll give you the same thing. So there you go. That's and I'm sure that's what some other testers made and confirmed. So that is why she's calling it bulky. So for each fingering weight yarn, for my size, I need like approximately 1,200 yards, like on the higher end. And if I made this a little bit cropped or whatever, maybe a little bit less. And I always think, I mean, my experience so far is that most patterns give you a little extra buffer, right? Like 20% more because of different knitting styles. And also, you know, just like the composition of the yarn, how it's going to knit up, all those things. So I have a couple of skeins that I have like an odd amount of that I'm hoping I can do kind of a mishmash from stash for this to make a really gorgeous, very marly, bulky weight fuzzy sweater. I don't have the yarn like all totally picked out or figured out, but that is my hope. Also because I have like, it'll be just around 1,000 yards, not quite enough, but I could also do cuffs without any fuzz, you know, that kind of thing. I have a couple of Surrey skeins where I have 3, and 3 is not enough really for me to do anything, much of anything with. Like even this sweater, I'd need 3 and a little. But I have like 2 or 3 quantities of 3. Maybe I can see if I can find like a half skein from somebody on the D-Stash Discord, but it's a possibility. Also, if they tend to overestimate, then I could really maybe get there. And doing top down gives me the freedom to make it a little bit cropped if I wanted to. Or a fade. This is a great opportunity to do a fade because you have many different yarns. You may like not notice it as much, or you guys, the possibilities are endless here. I really want to make it. So that's just a pattern I'm excited for. The other pattern I'm excited for, and I've not decided entirely if I'm going to do it or not, but Andrea Mowry, she always does a sock knit along in the winter time, and this year she made a pattern that's the tessellated sock, and I think it's called Totally Tessellated, and it's matches her tessellated vest, tessellated sweater, and these socks. And because it takes like 1 skein of fingering, 1 skein of floof, 1 skein of a color change yarn if you have it, and I do have like one more. Like these 2 spin cycles don't have a purpose right now and are not probably something I'd put in a sweater for myself. So like this would be so fun for some fun socks. And because I also have like this crazy, this is from Backloop. I think these are oopsies. Boop. Floof. That would be fun. How fun would that be? And like a really dark gray or blue fingering. I don't know. That sounds so fun to me. Do I need another sock pattern right now? No, but once I finish my December sock for Farmer's Daughter Fibers, I can use whatever I want. So I don't think I'd probably cast that on until the new year. I'm not going to do like the knit along with her. Also because I don't need another little knit along, but it's so fun. I'm sort of itching to pick out what I want to use at least. Okay. Let's see if there's any other news things I wanted to talk about. Oh, I have 2 Yarny things. So one is there are a couple of collections, holiday collections coming out. The Frosted Stitch, I think is her name on Instagram, has some like classically winter colorways coming out, which are really, really nice. I'll put a picture. And if I said the wrong Instagram name, sorry, but I'll make a correction here. And then also Honey and Quill, who is a new to me dyer. I haven't bought any of her yarn, but I have been seeing, she had this really fun collection come out earlier this year, and I've just started following her. And she's located in Boston and has some very fun also holiday colorways coming out. There was one other, and the other one that I'm really excited for is WIP Fiber. And she is a dyer out of, I think she's on the West Coast. Her name is Jess, and she has these really amazing, so I'll put a picture up, but the thing that I'm like tempted, I don't need any more yarn. I don't think I'll buy any more yarn, but she does have these white tweed yarns, and maybe it's today that the collection releases. So yeah, 5 p.m. today, Mountain Time, so run. And I'm sure it's going to be open for a little bit this week. She did some really fun holiday speckle colors. There's a lot of tonals in here, but these white tweed, I'll post the picture of, she has like all of the tonals on the white tweed. They're so Christmassy, like any of the colors would be such a fun Christmas sweater, and like I don't need it. And I wouldn't get any time to make anything Christmassy, but they're so cute. It'd be a really good thought for next year to have something on hand to start, like, you know, mid-year, so you have your Christmas sweater. And a lot of people are releasing like that really, really red, like true red color this year, and she has that with the white tweed, which is like so amazing. One sweater that I had a thought about, and I just still don't know if it's like the perfect thing, is I want to make the Alaska sweater, which is like the original is in tweed, but it's tweed with trees on the bottom, tree color work on the bottom portion of it, and like snowy skyline. Like she has this really dark greenish color, which would be really fun for the top. I don't know, guys. I could be really weak-willed here, and it's you never know. I won't tell you until it gets here either. So let's see. That's one thing to note. And if you are on a budget, not buying any of these pre-orders, but you still want some new yarn, or just you've done that and you want to fill some gaps in your things, Knit Picks is also having a really big sale right now, and I think they tend to do this like before Black Friday. I don't know if it goes through Black Friday. I don't even know if they have any Black Friday sales, but like a lot of retailers, they want to get things shipped out before all the craziness, and that's when they choose to do their sale. And they've got lots of stuff on super sale. I was looking, and there's really, you know, just to look, if anything, I'd get some tools, but I really don't need anything from them this year. I love Knit Picks, and I really love them for some filler yarns too. So if I want to use like a really special skein as color work, then it's a great like other yarns. And they do have some nice bases that are, you know, 100% wool. They've got now some American wool, and they're just really budget friendly options. Though some of them are not like, I mean, they've got some yarns that are not super cheap or anything, but they're great yarns for me to do like mid-level, nice for like baby things. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. And I'm not an affiliate with any of these people, guys. I'm just talking about yarn things that I've been seeing this week, and you know, sharing the news to other fiber lovers around the world. Okay, let's talk about books, and then I think we're done. We can talk a little bit about my my knitting schedule, and that's how we'll close out. So I finally finished the Evergreen Heir by A.K. Mulford. This is the 4th book in the Crowns of Okrith series. Fae, witches, humans. Not really anything about humans, honestly. They're like negligible in the series. A lot about the Fae. And it's a nice series to read. I have been reading like a lot of fantasy. Oh, I was going to tell you guys this last week. Somebody posted on Instagram. They went to a friend I follow. She was at Sacred Sheep last week, which, by the way, I heard went really well. I didn't like look much into the details. I'm going to watch, it was actually the Botanical Knitter. she has a YouTube podcast, and she already put up her like haul / I think just like talking about Sacred Sheep. I'm going to watch that this weekend. If you don't follow her, her name is Emily and she's wonderful. Please give her a follow. Check out the video if you want to learn about Sacred Sheep. So it was a yarn festival. I don't know what we want to call it, like in Portland last weekend. And they did classes. That was like more of the agenda. But there was a marketplace, and I heard like very lightly it went really well, and I feel that's great. I think it was put on by like Ritual Dyes and maybe some other people, but that's so awesome. So I'm really glad. That's nice. Another West Coast thing, not something I was going to go to this year, but you know, that's a potential thing to know about. If anybody went to it, let us know how it was. The pictures at least looked like it was not super, super overcrowded, though I heard it was like a little bit busy. You know, obviously the beginning of the marketplace was really busy. But the classes were put on by some really great people, like people I would like. Andrea Mowry was there. I would have totally gone to some of them, but like by the time I heard about it and things, like most of those classes were full, and also I was just not going to go down. Right now we had a lot of stuff going on. But all this to say, back to books. Emily posted a picture on her Instagram that she was at Powell Books in Portland, and they had this wall that was at the top said romantasy. And I said, I didn't know that people were using that as a genre name. Obviously that's the genre I read most, or at least right now I'm reading the most. And yeah, I want to look through the books that she posted. I took a screenshot of it. I told her to. We were chatting about it, and I was like, I'm going to need to see if I should read all of these books, because that's what I'll do now. So now I have some TBRs to add to my list, but I have read some of them. And the first of the Crowns of Okrith, the High Mountain Court, was on that picture. I'm going to post the picture here because I have it on my phone. So that's so exciting. But I have been reading a lot in this genre. I'm kind of ready for, I think it's because I realized like Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks, that I am ready for Christmas. I've now decided I am ready for Christmas. Halloween's over, and so Christmas, here we come. So I might do a couple of like holiday themed, just straight romance reads, which is normal for me, and that's a great way to get into the holiday spirit, in my opinion. Okay, so I'm still reading Things We Left Behind by Lucy Squirt. Now that this Crowns of Okrith book is off my Kindle, I can finally get back to the Lucy Squirt. I did not read any more of it this week. I have, like, the last 2 days I didn't read it all in bed, which is crazy for me. Partly because I was up a little late reading something else, which we'll talk about in a second. I'm still reading The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan, which is the 3rd book in the Wheel of Time series. And I'm pretty far through it, but again, paused because I'm listening to something else. I also started a book that is a standalone book by an author I really enjoy, and her name is Lily Chu. This book is called The Takedown. It's her 3rd book, I think, ever. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. And she writes always about half Asian characters in Toronto. It's very specific, and I'm here for it. I am half Asian. I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the podcast. I'm half Korean. My dad is Korean. My mom is white. It's a real identity thing to take to live with. And, you know, I think there's a lot of addressing that in this in a really good way. Just like this one, I think even more than the others, maybe even like the being half Asian, because she talks about like the non-acceptance from the white side of her family. And I think almost always the characters are like half Chinese. I think that's like, and very possibly Lily Chu is also half Chinese. And that's why she writes about that, which is great. I understand. Write about what you know. But yeah, it's a thing. Being being half Asian is, I think, I don't think people talk about it a lot, but that's definitely an identity thing, because a lot of people will just be like, well, you look white. And white people I grew up with people just ask me like, what are you? Which is like a really rude way to ask that question, FYI. But also just Asian people are not super accepting of like biracial kids. And so you get a lot of this like middle land of which parents have more influence in you're growing up, and if you're really in the household. And I also like lived with my mom growing up, not my dad, and he was not the most Korean of Koreans. He was born there, but was, you know, tried to be very Americanized, which is normal of somebody who would come over in the 70s to the US. So yeah, it's an interesting place to be. It's an interesting thing to read about, and I really love the way she talks about it. So as soon as I saw that book come out, I was like, yep, I am going to read. And I started it, and then I remembered Iron Flame came out on Tuesday. I purchased it. I don't buy books, so this is the other thing. Really, I don't buy audiobooks because I go through them so quickly. I almost always am just renting from the library. Exception being Wheel of Time, because I knew it would take me a long time to go through them, and I was hoping I'd like them enough to revisit that I bought like the whole series. But normally I don't buy books, but this one I was like, yep, I'm definitely going to read it more than once, and I'm going to need to have it just to revisit whenever I want to. So in case you don't know, Iron Flame is the second book of, I don't even know what the series is called, you guys, but it's Fourth Wing is the first book. So let's see if it's got a name. Okay, so Iron and Flame is the second book of the Empyrean series, which, that makes sense. The Empyrean, I think, is the name of like the Dragon Council. Anyway, the first book came out this year, and she already released the second one. And I don't know, to me that sounds wild, but likely a lot of people, I also don't know if she's like a first-time author or if she's written several books, but I think a lot of times with big series like this, like authors kind of know where they're going. They also likely, if they were trying to get like their first book or their first of this genre published, they maybe had a couple of the series done. I really don't know. These are big books though. So Fourth Wing, I read this summer when everybody in Knitting Club was either just reading it or had just read it. So good. So good. I don't know if I might have talked about it on the podcast already, but it doesn't matter. I'm telling you now, go read it if you haven't read it. If you even a little bit like romantasy, read it. It's not really heavy on the romance part, other than a good amount of smut, like in a concentrated dose in the first book. More in this one because characters are more involved with each other. But I'm here for it. It's spicy. It's spicy. I would give this like a 4 peppers, 4. It's spicy. Because it's pretty detailed. That's why. Not like anything weird happening, not any kind of like, not a lot of kinks or whatever, but definitely a good amount of angst, a good amount of spice. This is the classic, like the first one was the very much what I care about, the build to the relationship. I thought it was good. This one did not just leave me bored with them. For sure, more things to take into account, a lot of stuff going on in the world around them. And pretty good world building. Like there's a lot of political intrigue. There's a lot of stuff going on. And like so many fun romantasy series, these are children making adult decisions. I mean, they're really not. They're in college. War college, but they're doing a really dangerous thing, so they've all grown up kind of fast. Also, they're in sort of a war-torn land, and I think people tend to grow up faster, you know, in those landscapes. And so this is it's the best. It's the best. I'm not done. I'm like 60% of the way through. I won't do any spoilers for anybody, but it is so good. If you haven't read the first one, run. Find it, read it, love it. And then just go right ahead into this one. I'm telling you, yes. I'm really hoping there's more. I would imagine there is. I mean, the series has a name. This is called book 2. It's not a duet. I don't know how it's going to end. I hope it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, even though that's terrible. And I hope she publishes the rest of them in quick succession. So I'm very excited. That's what I need to tell you about this week. Okay, so like, let's wrap up. I think the thing I need to focus on this week is figuring out my plan of what I'm going to focus on. I have not that many deadline things, so I do need to cast on my duotone so I can get that started. I have 8 weeks or a little bit more to finish it, which, because I have waited a little bit to cast it on. This is, I think we had almost a little bit more than 12 weeks to start. And also Rachel has been very generous in just like keeping her, apprised of our progress. And she was willing to push it a little bit if we needed to, because holidays are in there. I need to get some spinning done. I will show you some hopefully completed things next week on that front. I am spinning. I am loving it. I'm just slow because it still feels really new and I don't feel like I'm accomplishing very much. But I know I just have to keep practicing. And I just want to get all of these knit things done. Then I feel like I can really spend like a little bit more concentrated time, not just like 30 minutes at a time. Yeah. And then I've got the only other test. So I have to finish the Daft days, which I will have done by next week. Cast on my duotone, work through these Kettle chip socks, which honestly, I'm probably going to have way more done than I need to next week because they're so fun. And then my make-alongs are all just like super casual with friends. So I just have to figure out sort of like, how much do I want to work on everything? And I change this up all the time. Katie gave me a good method the other month, like when we were going to our spinning classes, that she likes to do 4 hours, like the 4-hour time thing, that you like work on something. So basically a whole evening you work on one thing. And then at the end of it, you decide if you want to continue for a little bit. This applies for like weekend knits too. I don't get 4 hours to knit at a time on the weekend. I have a kid. She's awake. But she does take naps. So it's usually like, what am I going to do during nap 1 and then during nap 2? And that's 2-ish hours each. And doing one concentrated thing does make me feel like I'm progressing, but I want to knit on all the other things too. And for some projects, I don't want to work on them for 4 hours. So I'm always kind of just like trying to figure out what I want to do. An hour at a time is usually not enough time unless I'm in a good place to stop, for those things. Or if it's like stockinette, if I'm just doing stockinette, I need to give myself a time limit because otherwise I won't even knit an hour. I'll be like, I did a couple rows, I'm good. So yeah, I just kind of need to figure out, setting goals for myself, like little goals throughout the week is like really helpful to kind of continue progressing and not get sucked down just one thing. But as we can see, I finished 2 sweaters and a pair of socks this week, none of which were like, I mean, this was the furthest along, but like I made a lot of progress on those, but really nothing on the rest of my knits. And I feel good about that, but also I wanted to make progress on some of these other knits. So figuring it out. I'd love to know what other people do for like time management. I know some of y'all are just like single project people, which is wild to me. And I'm sure there's like in your brain, that's like the way that you work. And that's amazing. I don't know that I could do it. Even just really focusing on finishing this first. I didn't work on anything for like a whole day besides this. And I was like, so ready for it to be done. Partly because I was at the end, but also, I wanted to work on other things. What do you do? What have you been working on while hanging out with me this weekend, evening, day, whenever you're watching? Yeah, and just tell me what you're looking forward to for these upcoming holidays. If you're in the US, Thanksgiving is so close. And then we're heading right into our winter holidays, whatever you may celebrate. There's always like something festive in the air, even if you're not really religious. It's that just like the winter coziness. Like what's the thing you're looking forward to for the winter coziness? For me, it's hot chocolate. I don't really drink hot chocolate the rest of the year, but I love hot chocolate. And it's just like the time where I'm like, that's what I want at night. It's just like a little cozy hot chocolate. I do a lot of tea. That's my like nighttime drink. But my mom's a hot chocolate drinker. And now that she lives here, I always have access. So that's really fun. Yeah, and all the cozy, warm family times. So that's me. I hope you had a really good time hanging out with me this week, even though I didn't have all that much WIP progress. So many FOs. Yeah, and I'm excited to continue on the winter knits. So yeah, let me know what you're making. What winter things are you looking forward to? Yeah, and how do you manage your time? I'm always interested in what other people do. Share. Continue the conversation below. And as always, you can find me on Instagram. I am _naughty_mess there as well. And on Ravelry, I'm _naughty-mess, and I'm trying to keep some more good notes in there. So more things to talk about as we wrap up this year in the coming couple of months. And we'll talk about plans and yeah, other fun things. But if you have anything you want me to talk about, tell me below. I will talk to all of you next week. Have a good one. Bye.